Hey guys, it's Mr. Garby. Here we are the week after our spring break, and we are in lesson 7 of unit 5. Last lesson, you were supposed to complete a Mad Lib, so you learned how to work with some text, user input, and strings in an app. And today we're really just going to learn an introduction to if statements. Your assignment is actually going to be on Google Classroom. It's going to be an activity guide. You're not going to actually be doing programming. So we're going to go through, there's only 4. I'm really going to go through the first 3 slides here. There's nothing to actually do in code.org, but you will see a copy of this, which I will explain. So the overview for today is that you're going to trace a simple robot program, similar to a turtle program, really not that different, but you're going to be doing it on paper, to develop a sense of how to read and reason about code with if statements in it. So we're going to talk about if statements. Conditionals is just a statement that only run under certain conditions. And an if statement is a type of conditional statement. So the common programming structure that implements conditional statements is called the if statement. So basically, it's called an if statement because we say, if this is true, then execute this line of code. All right, so when we say condition, we mean when we say a condition is held or under a certain condition, it means one thing is true for another thing to happen, or even one thing is false for something to happen. So we're going to look at the pseudocode for if statements. So if statements exist so that your program can adapt, respond, or make choices about whether or not to execute certain portions of code based on some condition that you check while the program is executing. Because it involves checking conditions, these statements are sometimes called conditional statements or sometimes just conditionals. A conditional statement, if statement, requires a conditional expression, something that's either true or false, and it's what an if statement uses to decide whether or not to execute a certain portion of code. A generic term used by the AP-CSP framework for this is selection. You're not going to have to worry about that. Okay, so an if statement is a way for the program to decide whether or not to execute a portion of code. And this is used in most programs probably, if statements. So we're going to just look at some pseudocode. You can see the text in block form. So first, there's 2 different types of if statements we're going to look at. We have a simple if statement, and then we have an if-else statement. So first, the if statement. You can see the if, condition, you see these parentheses and block of statements. So this is basically saying that if whatever you put in here is true, this will be executed. Whatever you put in for the block of statements, that'll be some sort of code. So an if statement might execute some code or it might not. It checks to see if something is true. So if the condition is true. If it is true, then run some code contained inside the if statement. Otherwise, if the condition is false, just ignore the whole block and pick up executing code that comes after it. So if this isn't true, it's just ignore. So if an if-else statement, it's a little different. You can see the if is basically the same, and then we have an else. So an if-else statement is an either or. You're saying I want to run either this block of code or this one. An if-else guarantees that one of the 2 blocks of statements will execute. If the condition is true, then run the first block of statements and ignore the other block. But if the condition is false, ignore the first block and run the second one. So else will never stand on its own. It always goes with the if. So if this is true, the first block of statements is run. If this is not true, this block of statements is run. Okay, the robot we're just going to look at, instead of a turtle, we have basic commands: move forward, rotate left, rotate right, and then can move. This is can move is just evaluating if the robot can move. Okay, so if there's an open square in front of the robot, or whatever direction we put, it's going to tell us yes, it can move, which would be true, or no, it cannot move, which would be false. So it evaluates a true if there's an open square, one square in the direction relative to where the robot is facing. Otherwise, evaluates a false. The value of the direction can be left, right, forward, or backward. So can move is a condition that you can use in an if statement. It will either be true or false. So this isn't actually going to do anything except evaluate the true or false. That's it. Okay? True means it can move, false means it can't move. So, example, if, this is our if statement, if it can move forward, so if this is true, that's a way to check to see if the space in front of the robot is open. We're going to look at some examples of that. One example of that. So we're going to look at this line of code right here. We're going to go through line by line, and each line as we move through is going to be highlighted. That's the line we're going to be working on, the highlighted. So this is the original code. So we have, this is my robot, the triangle. It can't crash into the walls, and it actually doesn't say this anywhere, I don't think, but it can't hit the black square, otherwise it crashes. Okay, so line 1 is rotate left, so you can see the robot rotated left. Line 2, it says if can move forward. So if the robot can move forward, well, yes, that's true, it can move forward, so this is going to be executed. All right, so it checked to see if it can move forward, true, so we're going to execute the code inside the parentheses after the if statement. So we move forward, right? This is what's executed. Now we're going to rotate left, that's line 6. You can see the robot rotated left. But then it says, line 7, if it can move forward. Now here, it cannot move forward, right? Because we said it can't hit this. That's like a block. So that means this is false, and this is ignored. So we go straight to line 11, which there's no code on line 11. So there's no code, the program ends, and this is how it ends. Okay, so let's think about what would happen here. Same code, different scenario, right? The block is up here instead of right here. And we're starting over here. It's the same place we started, I guess. So rotate left. Okay. So our guy's going to be now facing this direction. If can move forward, move forward. It can't move forward, right? Otherwise it would hit this. So it's going to rotate left again. If can move forward, move forward. So since it rotated left once again, it's going to wind up right here in this block and facing this way. The code ends, and that's it. So this is just a way to understand if statements. It's just a conditional statement. This is either true or false. The condition is either true or false. If it's true, the code's executed. So your assignment is going to be actually this page right here. Now, some of you might not have printers. If you do have a printer, print it. That's my suggestion. If you don't have a printer, I'm going to say this is a Google Doc. And you're going to get your own copy. So this might be a little tough because you can't like type in here. But what you can do is let's think about what the easiest thing to do. Horizontal line, special characters. No. What you might want to do is just do it on a separate piece of paper, because to insert an image for all of these, or a drawing, that's going to be tough. That's going to take quite a long time. Because if you copy and paste this, if you copy this right here, You go insert, drawing, new, paste it. Okay, that doesn't even work. So yeah, drawing this is going to be difficult. So I would just do it on a separate piece of paper. So what you're going to be doing here is basically the same scenarios that we did back here. Okay. So we have 3 different scenarios for 1 line of code. And here's our example with student work. We're going to execute this line of code and excuse me. What we're going to do is draw our little robot. If it crashes into the block, we're going to write crash. Okay? You can see the directions up here just say that. It says trace the code and plot the movements of the robot for the 3 scenarios shown to the right of the code. If the robot's directed to move onto a black square, it crashes and the program ends. If the robot doesn't crash, then draw a triangle showing its ending location and direction. So you can see that here. So scenario 1 was move forward. Then the if statement said if it can move forward. Well, yes, it has space to move forward, so we're going to execute these 2 lines of code. So we're going to move forward twice. And then it says rotate left and move forward. Okay, so scenario 1, that's the ending position. Scenario 2, move forward. Okay, so we're right here. If can move forward twice. Okay, it can move forward because it only says once, right? It can move forward once, so it's going to execute that. But when we do execute it, the line of code here is saying move forward twice. So 1, 2, crashed into the gray square. So scenario 3, move forward. If can move forward, now it can't move forward, right? So it's going to skip that. It's false. So it's going to skip all of this. It's going to go straight to rotate left and move forward. So that's the ending position. So you're going to try these for, well, you're going to try this one. And then here it has a sequential if statement. It just has one if statement after the other. And you can see the example here. And you'll give these a try. And then finally has if else statements, where if the if statement's false, you must execute else. And this is just more, and then we have nested statements. Nested statements, I'm going to go over this one, okay, because it's an if statement inside of a if else statement. All right, so let's start and look at scenario 1. It says if can move forward. Looking at the robot, yes, it can move forward. Move forward, okay? It skips else. Because this was true, we skip this stuff, right? This is only if it's false. So the last line of code says move forward, and then it's done. So that's it for the first scenario. We just move forward twice for the first scenario. So for the second scenario, we're starting here. If can move forward, well, it can't move forward, right? There's this gray block here. So we have to execute else. Okay. If can move backward is the first thing in the else statement. Can this move backward? Yes, there's space right here. So we're going to rotate left twice to reposition ourselves backwards, and we're going to move forward. So we're going to be right here. Then we're going to move forward again, as stated on this line, and then move forward a third time. And that's why we end up over here. Third scenario, we're starting here. If can move forward. Okay, it cannot move forward, right? Once again, so we have to execute the else. In the else statement, we have if can move backwards, which it can. We rotate left twice, so we turn around and move forward once. Then we move forward again, and then we move forward a third time, right? That's outside of the else statement, so it crashes. So this is a nested statement because our if statement is inside of our if else statement. And you can always nest like that, and it will be useful sometimes. So give this a try, do the best you can, and this will be submitted. You can submit a picture of it if you handwrite. Submit a picture of that on Google Classroom, and you'll see an assignment made there where I made a copy of this for each of you. You can add an attachment to your assignment, so you don't have to write on this. You can do it on a separate piece of paper. Please email me if you have any questions or anything that you need help with. And don't forget about office hours for this class, which is, I always forget for my classes, but I have a nice calendar. Today is it's dark blue. Office hours are Friday at 11 a.m. Okay, you'll get an email notification. So, hope you guys have a good week, and I'll make another video next week. We'll do one assignment per week going on so that you have no more than an hour of work per week for this class. All right, see yas.